Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this week's episode of My First Sketch at myfirstsketch.com. I'm Josh Hyam. As always, feel free to subscribe to the show on iTunes or on SoundCloud. Get it automatically. You can catch the show on the Stitcher app as well. You can like the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/myfirstsketch. Email me at josh@myfirstsketch.com or follow me on Twitter at what else? myfirstsketch. Thanks to everyone who came out to the 2017 edition of the Dirtiest Sketch in Philadelphia. Congratulations to Cups and Half for taking home their big prize. It was truly a gross evening, and we should all be ashamed of ourselves. News for the next Sketchfest show will be coming soon, as long as you're not too hungover. Some pretty exciting news for me. As FIT presents their annual Black Friday Comedy Marathon, I will be hosting the Big Freaking Quiz with Josh Hyam at about 2:25 on Saturday afternoon. It's a year in review quiz show looking back at the dumpster fire that has been 2017. I'll be announcing the contestants as we get closer to the show, but I hope you'll come out as we make fun of 2017. But on to the show. A couple months ago, a video was shared on the Philly Comedy Facebook group, and I didn't recognize the name of the group or the gentleman in the video. So I did my research, I reached out, and I invited them to talk comedy with me. So if you've never heard of them before, let me introduce you to today's guests, Brian Lambert and Benjamin Alf, collectively known as Tactical Retreat. Their first sketch is called Customer Service. Brian plays Neil, Ben plays a customer service rep, I play a coworker, and Dave Metter gives us the visual information and a voiceover at the end. So let's get to the sketch.
The phone rings in an office.
Customer service, how can I help you? This is Neil.
Hi, Neil. I got a problem to report. I had one of your technicians over here to install my cable, and now he's upstairs fucking my wife.
He's doing what?
You heard what I said. He's upstairs installing way more than cable.
Are you sure?
Are you calling me a liar? Your tech's upstairs snaking it to my wife, and you're going to accuse me of lying?
No, I'm not calling you a liar. It's just I'm not sure how to handle this somewhat unique situation. Could I transfer you to another department?
Oh, what? Do you have a wife-pounding department? You got a bunch of guys up there that are specifically trained to deal with errant wife plowing? Yeah, in that case, transfer me.
Okay, I see your point. We don't have a wife pounding department. Could I just put you on hold for 1 second?
Neil places the call on hold. He turns to a coworker.
I got an irate customer here. He claims that one of our techs is out porking his wife currently. What should I do?
Ask him if he's been satisfying her sexually.
I'm not going to ask him that.
Then I've lost interest.
Neil returns to the call.
Okay, I'm sorry. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here listening to my wife get pounded by your tech.
Okay, I'm sorry about this issue. Let me see if I can resolve this for you. They didn't really cover this in the training manual, but sure. What can I do to remedy this situation?
Look, here's what we're going to do. You're going to give me 1 month free cable.
1 month free cable.
And you're going to throw in 6 months of HBO.
6 months HBO.
And Showtime.
Showtime.
And Stars.
You want Stars too?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll throw in Stars. Let's see. 1 month free cable, the premium channels, and including Stars for some reason. And does that remedy the situation?
Well, I mean, your guy's still upstairs tunneling my wife, it's a step in the right direction.
Okay, well, if that has resolved the issues, I'm gonna go now and not have to deal with this. So, goodbye.
The customer hangs up. He crosses off Comcast from his list of utility companies to call. The gas company, electric company, water company, and Columbia House remain. He begins a new call.
Hello, gas company customer service. I'm calling to report an issue. I had your technician over here to check my gas meter. Now he's upstairs fucking my wife.
Fraudulent accusations of utility technician wife fucking are on the rise. This is a serious crime. If you have any information regarding such activities, call the Fraudulent Wife Intercourse Hotline at 1-800-555-STOP.
Hi, Brian. Hi, Ben.
Hello?
That's good.
So tell me where this sketch comes from.
This particular one, what was the genesis of this one? I'm trying to remember. This was.
I think it was just because he and I were at the time and remain roommates, and I'm confident that the genesis of this sketch was me being on the phone with Comcast and having to deal with someone who would continually, just like, I'm very sorry to hear about your problem, and I don't know. I think we just had the idea of a customer service representative being, put to,
Well, Brian is a very nice guy in general, but
Yes.
occasionally he goes into what I call dark Brian, which is that whenever he has to deal with something sort of bureaucratic or something like that, like being put on hold or whatever, he gets really angry and goes into like put someone else on, put the manager on. He goes into what I call dark Brian.
Okay, so and I work in retail and customer service, so you're the kind of person I probably hate.
Oh yeah, no.
like right away.
I'm terrible. It's like
Just that like annoying entitled sort of like, oh, boy, you're not helping me. Fuck you.
I don't usually tell them to fuck off.
No,
I'm
but-
mostly just like yeah, okay, Neil, yeah, let's yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, no, you're gonna help me. All right, fine. Let's get your supervisor on. No, I can wait for him. But
I guess the sketch was sort of like, what could someone get away with if they were just a complete sort of asshole?
It's
Because that's the thing you realize is like you get the runaround about on this kind of stuff unless you're like a dick about it, and then that's when they just sort of like, just to try to get rid of you, will give you a month of free or whatever or something.
Yeah. When was this written? Like,
this is like
probably
2015.
Yeah,
We're living. It was at least 2015. It's certainly not the first sketch we have, but like it's the only one that has a lot of dialogue in it.
sure.
Yeah, it was.
And
We were
it's-
trying to figure out like what.
Yeah,
could we
because
do.
I went through a bunch of the videos that you guys have put on YouTube and stuff, and there is a lot of visual like reveals and
Yeah,
stuff that doesn't necessarily work for an audio only.
yeah, which is why it'd probably be hard to do sort of
Yeah.
some of them live and stuff. So a lot of them are just kind of like sort of little editing tricks to make like a joke or whatever. Yeah.
They're all sort of conceived, I think, with video in mind. Like we've never like I've never done any live
Neither have
comedy at all in any capacity, and even though they're terrible, I have done like homemade video projects before. So
Sure.
when it was sort of being creative with something, it was all sort of focused on like how can we do this as like a video thing, like what can it be done with, like what can be done with the video as its own thing, as opposed to just like, here's a funny idea, we're throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's live performance, like I was telling you earlier, is just really terrifying to me. Like improv and stuff like that, I've all the respect in the world to people who do that, but I don't know, that's intimidating, I guess.
So where does this idea? Like, okay, you guys are roommates.
Yeah.
Where do you get the idea of, hey, let's start?
Boredom.
It's just straight boredom. Like, hey, let's make a video. Like,
Yeah, I think
I
the
mean-
genesis of it was, sorry, but I think like the genesis of like the whole idea of making videos was essentially that, like we have stupid ideas that like we toss around all the time.
Yeah.
Just like, wouldn't it be funny if, and then it was like, well,
Right.
shit, why not do this
Like,
thing?
you have like your friends that you just text like a random sort of idea you think would be funny for something or just whatever, and we just, I guess, had sent so many sort of in-joke kind of texts to each other over the years that we were just kind of like, I don't know, why don't we just try like filming some of these and see if something can come from it. But
And like upwards of 50 views have.
but they're definitely like really fun. I mean, I guess, I don't know, like we've done like some other videos with a friend of ours who has recorded various little like low budget like sort of horror movies and stuff.
Yeah.
But doing comedy, I guess. I don't know. I guess we used to like watch a lot of sketch comedy in general. Like the State and Mr. Show.
All right,
and
so
stuff.
now that
that's
you're
a separate
you're-
question. Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, now you're
Damn it, Ben.
so
Sorry.
easy segue to get into what were you into growing up? What were your favorite things to watch? What made you laugh? Like,
Let's see. I will go first. I mean, I guess I took myself way too seriously when I was younger. It was probably that sort of era with like, first The Simpsons in like, I feel like most everyone in sort of our generation is probably that's one of the sort of origins of their senses of humor, is watching like, that sort of golden era Simpsons stuff. And, Seinfeld and, a lot of that sort of sketch comedy from the 90s, like, SNL in the early 90s, the whole sort of Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman kind of era.
okay,
That was definitely, I love that stuff. And then, Mr. Show and State and that kind of sketch comedy, just sort of, I don't know, a lot of those shows, like particularly like something like The State or like later on something like Arrested Development, or like those shows that it was kind of fun to be like in the club, or like you sort of
like,
get it.
Saturday Night Live is the mainstream,
Right.
and like State, Mr. Show are definitely alternatives. Like even the alternative, like it is like a secret club, like a secret handshake thing. Like, oh, that the story of Mount Everest. I love that, like that kind of thing. Like it becomes like a secret language for certain people.
It's true. It's like some of those shows just like, I don't know, like I feel like Arrested Development was like that for a long time, where like you show it to some people, like I loved it so much, and then I'd show it to people and they just like look at it like, well, I don't know why this is funny.
Yeah.
Like it is kind of like an in-group, out-group kind of thing, I guess, where you like sort of, being drawn to something that other people might not get, kind of, I mean, Woody Allen was kind of that way for me a little bit when I was younger too. I got into like his sort of earlier like slapsticky kind of stuff, like Bananas and Sleeper and stuff, and Take the Money and Run, and I would show it to other people and they just didn't find it funny.
Yeah,
they just didn't get it, and it was, I don't know, maybe it's like a pretentious sort of condescending kind of thing almost that like clicks with you, where you like getting something that other people don't.
Or it's not even like a full like laugh out loud, ha ha ha. It's like a
yeah,
I see that. Like,
that's clever. I'm clever. I'm smart.
all right, Brian, what's
my answer is going to be like substantially similar to that, minus a few things and plus a few things. I mean, as far as like my comedic sensibilities go, I'm also going to start as The Simpsons. Like I grew up in the Lehigh Valley, and we had 2 different Fox stations, and one of them played 2 episodes of Simpsons a day, and one of them only played 1, but they were all different. So from
you were in an overlapping map of 2 different affiliates.
Yes, we got.
So you got a bonus Simpsons.
Yeah,
because
we get,
that's fantastic.
So it was one. I think the Philly station. It might have been the Philly station. I don't remember. Played Simpsons, Seinfeld, Simpsons,
Something like that. Yeah.
And then like the New York station, I think in lieu of the Seinfeld, just played The Simpsons. Now, like I like Seinfeld now, but I would just like switch
But
back
as a
between them.
younger
I mean,
kid,
like,
Simpsons is definitely going to be
Seinfeld is great, and like Curb Your Enthusiasm is great now, but like as a kid in my like late aughts, is aughts a term for like being single digits?
That doesn't sound right.
No, I think I'm right. I think it's the aughts. In my late aughts and in my early teens, it was just all The Simpsons. Like I had no frame of reference for assholes in New York. That means nothing in a small town.
I don't know. I mean, that's one of my running theories about our generation, is that so much of it does sort of start, I think, with The Simpsons. I think that was like, because I remember what was weird, like watching some of those early Simpsons, like they never like shied away from making like really esoteric references.
No, not.
And like I would watch like the episodes of my dad, and my dad would get some reference to an old like Kubrick movie or something that I wouldn't get when I was like 12 years old, and like that was such a weird sort of thing of like, wait, this is our show. Like, why are you getting these like?
Yeah,
old
and there's that old
references?
joke where like you could recut. I think it's Citizen Kane, using all the references that the Simpsons have made over the year. You can get a full Citizen
Really?
Kane out of it,
You-
like almost.
yeah, there's the whole thing with like Mendoza and like McBain. They have like a whole plot's worth of a movie of like a McBain movie in like 1 or 2 episodes. If you like put them all together, there's
Oh,
like a
yeah, yeah,
coherent
yeah.
plot. Like I don't remember how exactly it goes, but like McBain storms a party and then like someone gets shot or like I don't.
Yeah,
remember.
it uses the same character, so like you've seen that one McBain movie just throughout the 5 or 6 episodes that's been featured in. Yeah,
And sort of talking about the notion of comedy as like an in-group, out-group thing. I mean, they were esoteric in an era where like being esoteric was work. Like I can go and spend like a couple hours like dicking around on Wikipedia at the office and just be like, yes, like the like the Crimean War, like and just whatever the hell. But like they're sitting there like tossing out jokes about like the Prussian consulate and like auto gyros and like what the hell is that? Like I don't even know if I had heard of Siam.
Yeah,
They really
then.
enjoyed like those jokes.
yeah,
that
yeah. Mr.
probably-
Burns' dialogue was always
so
just
many
like
of those old references, like the list. What was the list of investments he had in one
Oh,
episode?
it included
U.S. Hay.
U.S. Hay was one.
It was all stuff that
the
was
Baltimore Opera hats, like something about spats. I don't know. To be fair though, in Philadelphia, I do see people wearing spats. That you could make not a tidy profit necessarily, but at least like some minimal gain, like hawking spats to hipsters. I would.
I
say.
don't think I've ever seen anyone wear spats. So now I'm gonna be looking for it.
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna
maybe I
look for that.
Maybe I live in the wrong part of.
Guys, have you contacted your stockbroker about spats? I think it's important. But
No, yeah, I mean, with the Simpsons, like I don't know, they definitely had that sort of, like they weren't afraid to sort of alienate people with like obscure references, because like if you watch like other shows or like just even shows now, like a lot of mainstream sitcoms, everything sort of gets reduced down to the most kind of recognizable reference.
We're gonna say Main Street sitcoms as the 3-camera studio audience ones.
Yeah, I
because,
guess I'm
like,
just thinking like
the classical sitcom structure.
Sitcoms, that there's just sort of. I felt like with the Simpsons they had a lot of fun in like the writers' room of just like some people aren't going to get this, but let's leave it in.
yeah, let's talk about Prussia.
Or the fact that like it's a television show in '94 and Conan O'Brien is writing a elaborate Music Man parody, basically. That
Now, see, I didn't get.
I didn't know it was Music Man until I was 10 years after the fact. Like.
I'm gonna say just right off the bat that I am uniformly not going to get like references to musical theater.
Yeah.
And it is perhaps why like Family Guy and the Seth MacFarlane pantheon is troublesome to me, because like I don't give a shit about like The King and I. It means very little.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like as much as I love Mr. Show, like the only sketches they did that I really didn't like were like that weird like Godspell parody.
Jesus Christ
stuff,
Superstar,
or
the
Jesus
Jeepers
Christ
Creepers.
Superstar. Yeah, like musical theater. I guess that's just like some people sort of fall into really liking that, and I never.
I'm gonna throw it out there that I've seen Godspell in person, and it is also very bad. So I mean that's not so much like Bob and Dave's fault as it
All right,
just
that's fine.
is.
I won't talk about my enjoyment of musical theater.
No.
I'm sorry. I appreciate it in it, the way I think.
I'm just gonna say you saw a bad version. That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. But I suppose at some point we should stop
I think
like
the way-
full-hating The Simpsons, but
True.
it's
I
it's
think
very good. It speaks volumes.
I think the way Trey Parker and Matt Stone sort of approached musical stuff, like I like that sense of humor. I guess I like the South Park movie and that kind of stuff. But like their sense, it's probably because they just don't take themselves seriously.
I'm going to throw out additionally here, just because they weren't mentioned, and I think they at least like play a part in sort of how we look at comedy.
I Love Lucy.
Yes, I Love Lucy. Sure. Leave It to Beaver. No. I was going to say Mystery Science Theater, I think is very big. Kids in the Hall. Some of this stuff I didn't really get into until like after I was a little older.
Sure.
Kids in the Hall was one of those. if it was on like circulation on Comedy Central in the late 90s, because
Yeah.
I was a lame kid, I probably watched a lot of it. So like that's how I saw like most of my kids in the hall.
Most of
Just
the
like,
people
oh.
I've talked to are
Yeah.
that way too, so it's
Yeah,
perfectly fine.
But
Let's not forget the brilliant, short-lived Herman's Head. Remember that? Oh, I love that show.
I
It was only on
I-
for 1 year.
I remember
I
it
don't know if
existing,
that's
but I don't think I've
serious or
ever
not.
watched it. Like
It's basically
I-
it's the
I've-
plot of Inside Out. Basically, it's
Yeah,
like,
like-
all the parts of like the brain have.
the only part I really remember of it, like of being like in the moment, was like, oh, Lisa Simpson, like
Yeah,
because Yardley Smith's one of the people in the head, but I don't remember enough about it anymore.
I had the same experience when I saw Maximum Overdrive. You ever see that?
The
Stephen King
truck movie.
Yeah,
Yes, the
yeah, she's
truck
in that.
movie.
She had a career aside from Lisa Simpson.
Yeah,
a little
Yardley
bit,
Smith
like,
has had a very nice career of just like being a weird voiced person.
But
and
yeah,
Lisa Simpson.
but then once you're
Not to
Lisa
knock
Simpson,
that.
you don't have to do anything else.
No, not at all.
Like, I ask everybody about SNL. Who are your favorite Saturday Night Live cast members?
currently or
Ever.
I'm glad you didn't say currently. I would be like the guy.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely like probably Mike Myers would be one of them. I mean, oh God, I can't tell you how many times I used to watch Wayne's World just over and over again, and Austin Powers, and like those movies. Like, I just there were a couple of those sort of comedies, like Austin Powers and Dumb and Dumber and Wayne's World that I just watched so many times on like VHS tapes when I was younger that like I know like every line of them.
Yeah.
That was sort of I mean definitely like Mike Myers would probably be. Phil Hartman too, just, like that's sort of I guess everybody has like a certain like I don't know what you call it, like a certain like group of people who were there for a couple years together,
Like
what would you
I always
call
bring it
like
up. One of the writers always famously says that your favorite cast is going to be like
the one when you're like
your
12 years
sophomore
old.
year in high school. I think
Okay,
is
that
his.
makes sense. Yeah.
So like, and you were mentioning that golden era of Dana Carvey. So I guess
Yeah, that's what it is for me. Like, because I know a lot of people like the early stuff with Chevy Chase and Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and stuff, but it's for me like the classic SNL is like Phil Hartman and Dana Carvey and David Spade and Mike Myers
Yeah, I mean, if we're going by
and
like,
Adam Sandler too, even though his.
We don't have to talk about his recent
trajectory-
stuff.
His trajectory. He was great
His
back then.
recent
He was
things.
great back then, but we don't have to talk about his more recent.
I mean, do we need to like break it down to just his more recent work, his like posts?
Let's talk just about Jack and Jill. How about
I
that?
don't. I have so much to say about Jack and Jill.
I don't think I've seen an Adam Sandler movie since.
Yeah,
I'd
exactly.
have to look at a list. Like I don't think there's been one that has really stuck out. I'm like, I need to see this right now.
Well,
like
he was in Funny People, and he was good in Funny
That might
People.
be the
That's-
last one.
Yeah, I mean, though funny. Well,
but that's not an Adam Sandler movie.
No, that is
like,
fair.
The
That's a
genre
Judd
of
Apatow movie,
Adam Sandler movies.
To say about SNL, I would say that like if I'm going by like who was on SNL when I was like a sophomore in high school, I don't know that we want to look to that era. I could be like, like Chris Kattan, he's great, but
Chris
no,
Kattan's fine. Like he's another one that like we can't judge him by what happened after Saturday Night Live. But
True.
what-
Did anybody see Corky Romano?
I was
don't
going to
know.
ask
That's one
what
of
he
those-
was in.
Corky Romano.
Oh, very good.
I think he was just recently. I saw him in one. It was
Uh-huh.
like the fourth or what's the
Yeah,
thing?
I'm go for it.
The
I
fourth
wanna see
or
where this is
fifth
going.
like Sharknado movie. I think he played like the president.
Those don't count as movies. did he? What?
Yeah, he's in it.
He's
in
been-
one of them.
he's been touring as a stand-up. He did
Okay.
Dancing with the Stars recently.
did he?
Like which
I-
Okay.
you know
I had no idea.
he was just here a couple months ago because my buddy Dan opened for him.
Shit.
Oh, really?
Here I
Wow,
am
cool.
shit
Yeah,
talking
like-
Chris Kattan.
People do things like
Oh yeah, it's. Oh yeah, no, it's. But to sort of go back, yeah, I was like when you asked that, I was gonna say Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman in particular, because I feel like Phil Hartman was just like. It's a weird thing to say about like about comedy, perhaps, but he brings like a certain like gravitas to what he
Yes.
does. Like he's very good at being this like
He had that
very
voice.
the voice, the very serious straight man. Like he's gonna sit there and he's gonna go in and he's gonna sell you a very silly premise, like
Like an
Frozen
unfrozen
caveman
caveman
lawyer,
lawyer, yeah.
exactly. And he's just gonna like he's going to go in there, he's going to do it, and you're going to come out and you're going to be like, I don't care that that's a very goofy thing. Like that's he sold it, and yeah, it's a level of seriousness, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't.
Have you read his biography?
No, I didn't know it existed.
There's someone, I forget who it is. Like, I think he's a writer for one of the newspapers. He wrote a biography about Phil Hartman, and he talks about like Phil Hartman's ability to be the straight man in the role but still get the laughs, and then eventually talking about his insecurity was like he was in the cast with Dana Carvey, and Dana Carvey becomes a big star doing characters, so he's trying to search for a character to hang his hat on, like instead of just being Dad, like all the other various, even though he's in the show more than anyone else,
He doesn't really. Yeah,
for the first 5 years, he doesn't have one solitary thing to grab onto.
Yeah, it's like, because I notice sometimes like when they talk about they'll ask like different members of SNL, like, what character are you famous for or whatever, and like some of them don't aren't really like, Dana Carvey was, church lady or whatever, but like, some of them like Phil Hartman are like, it's too sort of broad to kind of
Phil Hartman, it's going
like
to
Norm
be
Macdonald's
impressions.
another
Yeah,
one.
like Bill Clinton.
Yeah, Bill Clinton and Sinatra were I think the two big ones that we can think of. Unfrozen came in lower is his first major character by itself, and it doesn't happen until he's on for 6 years. That character doesn't debut until 92.
Yeah, well, I guess SNL more than other kind of groups, they always focused on having those recurring characters.
Yeah.
I guess to
Some of that's a function of longevity, though. I mean, it just if you're not, this sounds bad, but if you're you're gonna exist since the late '70s through now, you kind of have to have a certain repetition.
There's a certain simplicity to the storytelling. If you see a specific character coming out, you immediately know where you are. So I think that's a crutch that they can rely
Sure,
on.
he's gonna
Yeah.
dip his balls in it.
I mean,
Spartans, you see the cheerleader thing, you immediately know what's going to happen, and you're set, and there's no extra explanation that you have to go into.
And then there's the downside of it, which is that people can't really view you as. It's hard for anyone to view Paul Rubens as someone other than
Yeah.
Pee Wee Herman,
Or-
you know what I mean?
And Phil Hartman co-wrote Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Throw that in there.
Yep, and he was
Facts.
a character on the first season of the TV show, and that he had to leave because he got Saturday Night Live.
Wait, who did you?
Phil Hartman's a character in the first season of Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Oh, really?
Along with
Okay.
Lawrence
And then-
Fishburne
And then
other
he
people.
leaves because he got Saturday Night Live. Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep. He's a Captain Carl.
No,
Is
it's been quite a while since I've seen
They're-
any episodes of
They're
Pee-wee's
on Netflix.
Playhouse.
Go dive in. They're weird. It's a very odd show to watch again.
It's a weird thing to even exist in the first place because
Yeah.
it was never supposed to be a kid's thing.
Yeah,
Exactly. And
originally
then they
it
just
was
turned
a-
it into one,
yeah.
and it's in its own way very meta to have this sort of the character written as a man child existing in an adult's world and then taking the man child down to host a kid's show.
Yeah.
Very
It is a very
folds in
bizarre.
itself.
Where do you guys meet? How does this start?
I mean,
Like
we,
the-
we met in college,
Okay.
but that was unfortunately a long time ago at this point.
Yeah. Let's see.
We're not
the
young
origin
anymore.
of now. We're 24 now, and
Yeah, I
You know,
mean,
we,
college was like last year, and it was back in
No, we met-
the year we graduated high school.
no, we met in college freshman year, and we've been living together in the city for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah,
living together now,
long
something like
enough.
that. And
Long enough.
yeah, no, I mean, we just started sort of doing them for, I don't know, like I said, largely out of boredom, but we now are starting to, I don't know, starting to kind of take it more seriously, because it's one of those things that you have to put effort into, or it's just kind of like a little fun side
Yeah.
project, I guess.
I feel like
But
we should have
if
put
it is
together.
just that though, then whatever,
Right.
I feel like we should have put together an origin story of some point.
You
about,
should have figured out
Like I was sitting here in my head while you were explaining that, being what's something really absurd that I could make up, but
so basically
improv.
it was
All right,
basically
well,
just you guys as roommates, just
Yeah.
hey, this would be funny, and then
Exactly.
what's the drive to actually be all right, let's get a camera and get in front of the camera and do it. Like,
well, Ben has money and he bought a camera. And like, if it wasn't for that, like, if it were left to me, it definitely would have been like left in the dustbin of like, yeah,
So-
that's a funny idea.
so then what's the
and, like,
motivation
that's
of
that.
going out and buying a camera? Like, to
sure.
like,
No, I mean that's a good question. I guess like there's a certain like claustrophobic feeling to things just being like an idea in your head for a long time without like putting it out there, you know. And,
Sure.
You know, I tried. This is what happened with stand-up comedy. I tried that a couple times.
okay, well, hold on, stop.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with
where
this.
where was this? What?
Well, there was a little place out in Spring City near where I grew up that did like open mics, mostly just bands where like kids would their little band, like, you know, their parents would come and see them, whatever. And so I did, you know, I decided to put together like, you know, 5 minutes of stand up.
Do you remember any of it?
I remember some of it, but it was a lot of like, I think I was like immediately sort of catering to that environment, that sort of suburban kind of NPR listeners and stuff. And
Okay.
like some of my early bits would be about like if you're gonna like cut someone off in traffic, like you could try to see if they're like in like, you know, a Nissan Altima listening to Terry Gross, like that's fine. But if they're in like, you know, a truck listening to country music, like those are the people you're gonna want to not, you know, get in a confrontation.
Yeah,
with,
you want to go
know,
through the
that's-
passive people that you're gonna cut
Yeah,
off.
sort of-
Joke sucks.
you but no, and like I guess that's what it was with stand up, and I you know, I tried it twice because it went really well when I did it there.
Okay.
So I did one time go to Helium to like an open mic.
Do you remember anything about the night at Helium? Like, do you remember any of
Yeah.
the other people that were there?
I don't remember. I do remember there was one older guy there who had a couple of like he was clear that he was just sort of ripping off Stephen Wright. He wrote some like versions of Stephen Wright jokes where he just changed some of the words.
Yeah, that one-liner kind of.
Yeah, but he altered them, so it was very clear that it was like that he was taking from that, like he had been watching, like, you know, whatever, Dimitri Martin and Stephen Wright, but he didn't really know how to do it very well, so he just sort of altered their jokes with like a different kind of noun at the end or something.
He should have spoke with a high pitched voice. That would
But
have
this was
mixed it up well.
But this
enough.
was like 4 or 5 years ago, and like I should have like at that point maybe tried to get more involved in like the comedy community there, but like it didn't go well. I think it was just sort of weird because like I shouldn't have let it discourage me from doing stand up. I haven't really done stand up since then, and I've been thinking about actually getting back into it, but it's again kind of a terrifying idea. But I don't know. It was definitely too like I was definitely unprepared for like for not doing well.
But you can for not doing well.
And
like,
for just, you know, being in front of like 50, 100 people to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, so and like, you know, when your opening joke doesn't work, you know, like that's just like it's just done, you
that
know?
that first expectation of a laugh and you don't get it. It's definitely a soul crusher.
It's like, well, that was my
Sometimes
best
it can be.
joke. So like, well, here we are.
Downhill from here. Like,
Not start with the A material.
Yeah.
so buying a camera. So you buy a camera, and you just start doing stuff on your own in your.
Yeah, basically just mainly the two of us. Like, you know, we've tried to come up with stuff that, you know, we have some like bigger picture sort of ideas of sketches that'll take more kind of resources and more people and stuff to do, and that's sort of like in the works right now. But mainly we focus on doing things that's only like, you know, trying to be economical with the comedy and just sort of like a concise sort of joke in like 1 to 3 minutes.
I was gonna say, because like, you know, going through your YouTube videos, like there's nothing longer than
5 minutes maybe.
Well, yeah, and
which
I mean,
I appreciate because I'm a big brevity guy. Like in general with comedy, like
well, you don't is Ben has repeatedly like yelled at me about like when we like try to edit these things, and he does not want like driving footage as we would call it in the in the videos. So there's definitely an effort to like keep it punchy, keep as little in there as you need as possible, and just sort of go from there. I mean, it's brevity is some. I mean, like I'm sure we have things that are big and long, but just the function of it keeps them short.
Yeah.
Like, there's only two of us. We're mainly doing it for our own amusement, and like doing punchlines is hard. Like having like a big, long, protracted thing is just. I mean,
Yeah.
like the whole thing. To I don't know if I
Well,
should
it's hard.
reference.
What do you mean? It's hard to like maintain like a
Yeah.
joke over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm always paranoid about like boring people after like 2 minutes, because I don't know. Sometimes when I'll watch like clips on YouTube, it'll be like, or whatever, any sketch comedy. Once it gets like 3, 4, 5 minutes, like it starts to the joke is hard to sort of sustain
and it's
itself,
YouTube, and it's so easy just to
Yeah.
stop
Hey, look at
watching
that
and
other
move
thing
on.
on the right,
Like,
you
yeah.
know?
Wow, it's suggesting that I watched this video with a cat in it. I love cats.
Because like I've gotten to the certain point where like I can look back at certain sketches from Saturday Night Live that I've loved growing up, and then like I can rewatch them. I was like, wait, that was 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Why is that 8 minutes?
Yeah.
Like,
that's the thing with it. I mean, like I have like I don't know how they do that. Like sometimes, like I have a lot of respect for the writers of SNL, like who like, because I feel like a sketch will organically be like, it'll work for 3 to 4 minutes, but like some of the sketches they do are like 8 or 9 minutes. Like I don't know how like you can sustain that sort of like humor, and because you can't keep telling the same joke over and over. You have to sort of evolve it a little, and then you have to find a way to end it, which is always impossible.
And to be fair, I mean, those guys too are dealing with like performers. Like, I'm not going to go
that's
so
true.
far as to say that like we're performers. I mean, I think we can say words and sort of move about on screen, but I mean, like, it's easy to sit there and take a one-note thing and kind of make it go if the guy doing it is like Chris Farley. You know, he's just there's something to be said for like captivating performances, even if like it's just like the fat guy is like jiggling his belly alongside of like Patrick Swayze in a sketch.
Yeah.
Like people will laugh at that because he's
What was
like
that
sort of.
sketch?
You never saw that, the Chippendales?
Oh wait, no, I remember the
Of
Chippendale.
course.
All right, I remember.
Of course, like
Yeah, okay.
Patrick Swayze gets the job on his looks, but like all parties agree that like on the merits of the dancing, it was Chris Farley who won. And that's,
Okay, I do remember that now, but no, I
how
mean,
do you
it's,
not remember that? Like,
I don't know.
It's one of the most like
they're all-
the stomach sort of going up and down is sort of like locked in my head in like a very terrible.
yeah. I could probably do
gif,
like half
vine.
the dance that he does, like
It's-
like movement wise,
So
because
like,
I know
will
it's
the
like
will the video like or will the recorder like pick up my dance moves if I like demonstrate?
no.
Well, it's
Nah.
sort of like it does like a Leia kind of in Star Wars, where it'll do like a little version of you,
I've never actually listened to a podcast before. so-
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
I
like-
listen to podcasts all the time.
All right. I was like, how did you not get into the like?
Oh no! It's.
But the point I was gonna make, like, because I really have a lot of respect for like like writers of SNL to like, because not only do they have to sustain something for like 8 minutes or something, but they also have to incorporate people who are not necessarily like they have to involve like athletes, and
Eli Manning.
politicians and stuff that like I don't know, but that's a well-oiled machine. I guess they know what they're doing.
Like, are you familiar with any of the other aspects of the Philadelphia comedy scene? Like, you've gone to
I'd
Helium
like
and done
to.
stuff.
We're gonna start like involving ourselves more in kind of the community. Like I've said, like doing stuff live, which like Dave, your next test, I guess, is knows how to do. Like that stuff is like intimidating. So I gotta have to get over that fear of it. And like I don't know, maybe I'll start taking some improv
bet-
classes, and
I
maybe
have-
we'll start doing some live stuff. But it's right now it just feels very like
I
daunting.
think I have less of a like. I'm less bothered by like being very foolish in front of people, but I'm also terrible at remembering lines and like. I think he's a better like improvise. Again, not that improvisation is necessarily a thing you need. He's a better improviser than I am. I did see that there's like some sort of sketch fest, which I'm sure is well established. I know we'd like to work something up to put into that when that comes around, which I think is in the springtime.
We have this one like what I think is a great idea for a sketch. It's going to require, the logistics of it are going to require like filming over, more than we've been doing. Like most of our stuff's
Sure.
been sort of shorter and stuff. But for this
Things
one, we
not
have
in
to
the
get
house.
for this one we have to get like testimonials from different people. There's going to be different
yeah.
locations, and we're going to have to set up certain props and certain things. So
Monster effects.
yeah, but that's basically like we're gonna try to submit that to different I don't know.
I just remembered the
Extra
other
stuff
question that
and stuff.
that I totally blanked on. You guys are roommates.
Yes.
And you're working together in this little project.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys divvy up like roommate time and just real life versus like do you actually like sit together and work, or is it just that passing back and forth?
I think we generally I would say that most of
A lot of it's done via like texting each other
Yeah,
throughout the day.
it's
Like,
Sure.
hey, what do you think about this
yeah,
idea
it's,
for this?
It's
And,
like someone will come up with the start of an idea and bounce it off the other person, and it kind of gets fleshed out like that, and then we.
Yeah, we don't really pick any particular times to to stare at each other and
No.
work on an individual.
There's no like set writer's room. Like,
No.
No. The writer's room is
The writer's room is basically let's take this idea that one of us came up with and just sort of keep adding different ideas to it and keep passing different ideas back and forth throughout a day or over a couple days, and then once we have something we like.
Yeah.
The writer's room is us bored at our jobs and texting each other, me just being this can wait for a minute, I have to type something in this sheet of paper, and then we film it when we can, which is typically on weekends or in evenings, and just edit it and throw it together. It's not. I mean, it's very collaborative in in the sense that we each put in what we want, but it's also not. It's not collaborative in two guys sitting over a piano figuring out the melody as
Sure.
it goes. It's never like that. Some ideas just sort of are birthed whole cloth, and someone will just be all right, it's this, and this, and this is what we do. And does that did I make
I
it
don't
do
know what
that?
that was. That was weird. I've never heard that before.
It's I got a lot of voice.
How would that work with the song? I'm curious though. You said two people on one piano. You mean?
I mean, I'm going off of sketches I've seen where two composers sitting on. I don't know. What I'm
They're on
talking
the same
about.
piano, writing simultaneously,
Yeah,
writing a composition.
So
They're
the
each
guy
one
on
hand.
the left gets the bass keys, and the guy on the right gets the treble keys, and they share the melody. So you get note A, I get note B, and it sounds good. That's how I think music works.
Sure.
All right.
Where does the name
Who's
Tactical
doing the
Retreat
pedals?
come from?
Oh, Tactical Retreat. I don't remember which one of us came up with the idea, but I think we both it's. I think we like it in the sense that it's a display of cowardice, running away from a problem, sort of gussied up.
Sure,
as, as good tactics,
Yeah, I think-
aha, it was our intention to lose here, ha ha ha, we did this on
I
purpose.
think
and
you
just-
described it one time as what a cowardly person would rationalize, running away from something as. You're not running away; you're tactically moving backwards.
Yeah.
And it's this. I don't know, and I don't know if it works right across our whole. I was going to try the French word for pantheon of works, but I don't know what that is. So never mind. Don't worry about it. He can cut this out.
Deja vu.
Yeah, yes, deja vu. That's what I meant. But what I was saying is I think I have this reoccurring notion across a lot of what we do of people putting a lot of work into something with very low stakes or something they fail at, and the effort that goes into that, and a lot of hustle for minimal gain. And I feel like the notion of failing and then sort of characterizing your failure as part of your plan sort of plays into that obliquely, and that's it's a reoccurring theme. I think.
Yeah, there is definitely a reoccurring theme of a lot of effort put into something with no real for no value, a sort of not a commensurate kind of reward for what you would put into something,
Yeah, the ultimate hustle. I don't.
That's why I've been watching Nathan For You
Yeah,
lately.
I
I've been
knew it was
watching
gonna
that. And I love what he does with that. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Where he just sort of so much work put into something so dumb.
Yeah.
It's just sort of cracks me up.
each step begets some other step that further convolutes the process, and I don't think convolutes a word, but further complicates the process, and then requires another absurd thing. And I feel for me, that sort of absurdity strikes at like the
Yeah,
heart
but
of
he
what
does
I
really
like.
well at just always having a straight face while doing
Well, sure.
it. Too.
I mean, that's how you play it.
At no point does he ever like admit that.
Yeah,
that
it's
this is
it's
ridiculous.
never a game for him. Like it's totally the real life. What you guys have been doing it for a little bit. You're relatively new to the scene and doing this.
Yeah,
but,
Yes,
was-
very much so.
but is there something that you've learned from trying to be funny on the internet?
I would say like.
My answer to this would just be that, like, if you want to do something and you think you're funny, you should just go ahead and do the things you think you find funny. And, like,
Because half the people are just
Yeah.
gonna
I mean,
tell you
I
how much
don't-
you suck anyway. No, I mean we've talked about this a little bit with like the internet, like where our generation, like we've grown up like recognizing that like you can't like sort of take too much seriously on the internet because everything on the internet is like as hyperbolic as possible, and you're gonna get like you're going to get like as much negative as with like the positive no matter what. And I don't know, I guess as far as like learning something like I don't know, I'm struggling still with like being intimidated, so I'm trying to kind of get over that and just sort of I don't know, accept the negative of it, accept like maybe being on stage or whatever in front of people and them staring at you kind of, I guess some of it's just sort of stage fright, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better answer for the question.
Yeah, I don't
What do we
have
learn?
like a thing I've learned from the internet. I will say that like when we got our first negative comment on one of those videos, it was hardly even negative. It was like meh.
Yeah, I like that.
Which in itself is a
great.
very Simpsons thing. Like
Meh.
I was so delighted with that.
But I feel like indifference in some ways is like more of an insult. It's like meh, whatever.
Oh, I don't really give a shit.
And,
I was
and
just
the,
happy
the fact that they
someone-
have to point out their indifference. Like,
It's true, yeah.
I mean, which renders the indifference actually
It's true.
Yeah,
You
it's
can't
no longer-
You can't proactively.
no longer
yeah,
indifferent.
It's like I have strong indifferent feelings to this. Like it doesn't work. But I was delighted that at least somebody was like so indifferent that they wanted to like go out there and just be like, you know what, guys, like just so you know, meh. That's how I feel inside. But I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's we're like.
Yeah, I mean, we're still sort of like developing kind of a following and just sort of trying to a following of 12 people or whatever. But no, we're still like sort of in the early stages of getting stuff out there. So I don't know. I feel like I might have a better answer to that question. Like
Yeah, we can.
We'll
like,
check
like,
it.
Like Ben will email you. Like
We'll
an
check in
answer
later.
once he's learned something from the internet. I don't. Guy said just like who gives a shit? The internet's like a great thing where like we don't get a lot of views or anything, but it's still like I get to sit here and like do some dumb thing that like we thought was funny that would have 10, 15 years ago just been an inside joke between two people and just throw it out there. And there are people who will watch it, and some of them are like a forceful meh, but like that's just insane. It's insane to me if you would have said when I was like, if it's like 1998 and I'm in high school and you're like, like someone in California will watch a video you made one day, like just because like this thing exists. So it's there and it's cool. And if you want to do it, go do it.
I'd like to find that one guy in California who's seen our videos.
I think his name's Jim.
Jim, okay. We'll contact him.
Yeah, he needs to mail us some In-N-Out burgers.
Yeah,
it's
I
very
guess
important.
just like, there, like I was saying earlier, there is a claustrophobic feeling of keeping things inside. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of relieving to at least get stuff out there. So I guess that's what I've learned so far.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Are we good?
It's
Yeah,
our pleasure.
I'm done. Yeah, I think that's
all right.
everything that we.
All right, well, thanks a lot,
Thank you.
Josh.
Thanks for having us.
And
Little corrections from the interview portion. Yardley Smith was on Herman's head, but she played a co-worker, not one of the pieces of his psyche. You can go like Tactical Retreat on Facebook, Facebook.com/WhereTacticalRetreat. On Twitter, it's at TacticalRtreat. And you can check out their YouTube page. I've embedded a couple of their videos on myfirstsketch.com. My First Sketch is a Philly Sketchfest production. You can find out more information at phillysketchfest.com or on Twitter, PHL Sketchfest. Also, for more information about comedy in Philly, head to watercooler.com. The music on this episode is by the band No-No, which you can check out at nonoband.bandcamp.com. And of course, like My First Sketch on Facebook. This is Josh Hyam. Thanks for listening. Go see some comedy.